Hi there everyone, and welcome to the fourth part of this series, where we will be taking a look at the fifth tank out of the Clan Wars reward tanks as of the fifth Clan Wars campaign, the WZ-121B. Now, no, it's not this thing, this is actually the WZ-121, but I put it up front to show you because it plays, or will play rather, so it's not out yet as me recording this. I wanted to get it out by the 16th so you all have a better feel for what to expect out of the tank. Now, one thing I wanted to state, which is why I chose to show the WZ-121 out the gate, is I am a bit biased against this vehicle. Some people enjoy it, but in most cases there are reasons why you don't see too many of the WZ-121s on the battlefield. Of which, let's go ahead and get right into Tanks GG. Unfortunately, we're not going to have any trading room footage for this, since even though the WZ-121 is a very close side grade to the 121B, I don't feel it would accurately represent what we're actually going to be looking at in the 121B. So, yeah, we're just going to have to do a lot of, not theory crafting, but speculation based on what we look at in Tanks GG. So let's go ahead and get right into that. So here we have the 121B. Up front on the left, as we usually do, as the tank that we're looking at in this case, with the comparisons off to the right. The WZ-121, as I had said, is the closest in tech tree analogue, and also being a Chinese medium. Now, you may be asking, well, Sashals, why do you have the Object 907 up there? There are a few reasons for this. One, in all likelihood, most people, if they're looking to get a medium, and they enjoy Russian mediums, this is going to be the first thing that you're going to be weighing your options against. It is the other reward tank that will play the closest to the 121B. And I also want to put it here because it puts further into perspective why I believe the 121B needs some changes before it becomes a truly fun tank. There's a lot of good here, as you will see, but unfortunately it has faults in 3 categories, which it shadows in comparison to the 907 playstyle and overall effectiveness. But with me stating that, and as I said at the very beginning, I'm a bit biased towards the 121. The 121B, however, gets some things correct that I wish the 121 had, but at the same time, it has some faults that at side grades, they're outright, why is this the case sort of scenario, as if the tank should be better in this area, but it's not, for some odd reason. Now, let's go ahead and look at the stats so you can get a feel for why I believe this to be the case. Now, the first problem, and all of you will notice this, it is a 2400 base DPM gun. That is a big problem. It's a monumental problem, actually, because it's all well and good. You do have a 390 Alpha gun, and the 907 has a 320 Alpha gun, so you're rocking better Alpha, but you have 700 worse DPM than a 907, and I do not believe that DPM is justified at 2400, because if we look at the 121, it has a 440 Alpha gun. It has nearly 2900 DPM. There is no excuse in my mind as to why the 121B has a 450, 500 worse DPM than the 121. Normally, that's one of the balancing factors, is if you have very good armor or exceptionally good alpha damage, you've got worse DPM. The armor on the 121B is not all that much better than the 121, and the alpha is less. So to me, there's no reason for this. Now, if they do change this in the future, which if you will remember for the T95E6, the second American T10 reward tank, they did make some changes to it after it first was on the live server, most notably to dispersion, which made it a much more usable tank, and why I enjoy it now. But continuing on, we have a higher caliber gun than a 907. We have good shell velocity, better than the 121, but this is, I believe, the IS-4's gun, effectively, on the 121. So it's AP, it's not APCR, which is another reason it's nice on the 121B, because unlike its in-tech tree counterpart, I'm getting a bit excited over this, if you can tell, because I adamantly want the 121B to be a good tank. It's just, things need to be tweaked. So you've got good shell velocity, that's another leg up for the tank. But going down to look at weapon handling, it's actually very good gun handling. The aim time's a bit worse than the 907. It's much better than the 121. It has incredibly good accuracy at .32. Yeah, that's awesome. That's very good to see. The dispersion is very good. I shouldn't say very good, because if you will recall, my irksome point was .14, but I hate .16 and worse guns. So the .14 is just on the verge of being aggravating, but with a 390 alpha gun, it's acceptable. The only exceptions are really going to be the M60. It has very good gun handling, but it needs it because I don't have much else, as far as its gun's concerned. Another thing, which is why I think the 121B is a good direction when compared to the 121. 5 degrees gun depression. It's standard fare for Russian. It's workable since you've got a good turret. And the 121, if you've ever played it, which is one of the chief reasons you do not see this thing all that much, is it has a mid-mounted turret, or closer to mid. It has a very elongated chassis with 3 to 3.5 degrees gun depression off the front. It is incredibly hard to get the gun down on the 121. On the 121B, that's not the case. So, it's better than the 121 in that sense. But then we've got this problem, mobility. Now, 50 top speed is acceptable. If you've ever played the T62A, and then you immediately got the 140 after, most people I know enjoy the 140 more. At 55 is a good cut-off for taking positions early. 50 is where it starts to be enough to where a lot of the new medium tanks will get there far before you do, and that is a huge problem. But 50's still on the cusp of being an issue. It's still a good top speed, but when we come down here, this saddens me a lot. Especially when you compare it to the 907 again. You have a, by proximity to other T10 mediums, a bad power-to-weight ratio. On flat surfaces, this will get you up, if not very close to your top speed of 50. But going uphill, if you're going on, say, mines, or Malinovka, sorry, I think I confused some people in the last video with calling it that, or Corellia, or any number of maps to where you're going to be going uphill for any sort of distance, this will get you killed. The enemy will be there before you. You're going to have to either go into a fighting retreat or try and play hold down, but in most times with 5 degrees gun depression going up an elongated hill, it's incredibly hard to do this. So you've got a top speed, which for me personally is good, but just not nearly good enough in comparison to other Titan mediums, and a marginally and notably worse power to weight ratio. This thing's not as mobile as it should be. Going over the things I've been discussing, there is a lot of good here that you have. You've got a good alpha gun on a effectively Russian playstyle medium. You've got very good accuracy on it. You've got acceptable gun depression compared to its counterpart. But if they would just simply buff the DPM to say 2600, enough to where you could potentially play the peek and poke game versus your other Russian counterparts, that would be acceptable. But this DPM, I mean, I want to put things into further perspective. One of the worst DPM Titan mediums out of the lot is the E50M. Now, the E50M has the exact same alpha gun. It has very good armor on it, if it's not outright one of the best armored Titan mediums, at least frontally. You still have a 150 better DPM, which amounts to a half a second and then some reload better than the 121B. There's no excuse for this, because this thing has what amounts to a side grade armor layout to the 50M, same alpha gun, less pen with worse DPM. To me, that's inexcusable. Now, that's enough of me harping on that, because I do not want to fully dissuade anyone from getting this. Let's say you have a good T-34-3 or a Type 59 crew. This is more than enough reason to get yourself a 121B, especially if you already have a 907. It's just, in an outright DPM fight, you're going in with your proverbial foot in the bucket. But if you're not constantly exposed to fire, or you're using your armor constantly, you can make this tank work. Admittedly, I'm going to play it when I get it, but I want it to be good. I truly do, which is why I'm genuinely hoping that Wargaming sees some of these statistics and will hopefully, at the very least, buff the DPM just a smidge, just a slight amount. Because there's so much else that's good here. In of which, let's look at the armor, because I've done enough of my griping, downtrodden talking on the tank. It has even more strengths with the turret armor and the hull armor. Now, I know that 130 degrees, oh Jesus, millimeters of armor on the front doesn't seem like much, but this is one of the reasons why there's actually some people that like the 121, even though it's even less at 120. We'll look at that when we look at the visual models, but continuing on even further, 1950 hit points, that's more than the 140, 62A, I think, as well. And just 50 less than the 97. That's good. We have 400 meter view range. That's good as well. That's literally on par with the other Russian mediums. Now, the camo coefficient, I'm not certain, but you can highly expect it to be the same, if not slightly better, than some of the other Russian tanks. So it's going to be rocking good camo, as you would expect out of a low-profile Russian or Chinese medium, so that's very good as well. Fire chance, I really can't speak to that. If you're in a Russian medium, a Chinese medium, most oftentimes you're going to be caught on fire by being hit in the gas tanks. That 12% doesn't apply to that. You have the module locked out, you're going to catch on fire. So 12%'s good, but I do not know how much that's going to correlate into you being shot in the engine. I don't remember it happening all that much with the 121, but it's good. It's another one of those niceties, not necessary. But taking all this into account, just as a brief summation, because I do not want everyone to be saying, oh, well, this thing sounds like a steaming pile right now. Well, it's not. It's just that you have slightly worse DPM than you should. Arguably, more than noticeable worse amount of DPM than you should. You've got a good alpha gun, though. You have a good pen gun with APCR. You have a high velocity gun. You have a slightly higher caliber gun, which is better for overmatch mechanics as it stands in the game. You have workable accuracy, or dispersion rather, with exceptional accuracy and a good aim time. You have better gun depression than the Intech Tree counterpart, which is great. I love that. That's one of the reasons I detest the 121. Because it's just a work of monumental proportions to get that thing's gun down on most maps. The speed's really the only other notable downside for me versus the DPM. But it's not enough to where it's going to make it trash. It's just for taking early positions versus other mediums. If you're in a pub match, you've got an enemy team. They're not that quick. They don't have a lot of batches of TVPs. This is going to be fine. This is going to be more than fine. It's just in those circumstances that you need to take those positions versus other vehicles, namely 907s, batches, TVPs, leopards. They're going to get there well before you, and it's going to be a bit of a pain. But then you've got this awesome armor on it. But it's not enough to justify all these 2 to 3 drawbacks I've been obsessing over to a degree, I will admit. But let's look at that strength now, the armor on it. Now, looking at the armor model, a lot of you might think, well, that looks like a Type 59. Well, that would be correct for 2 reasons. If you've ever shot at a Type 59, this thing has the exact same weak spots in the turret, which, coincidentally, about the same weak spots on a 140 and a 907. If you aim just to the left of the gun, or down towards the base of the turret, it's thin enough, to where you can pen with an APCR gun, which can be a problem, but it'll be at incredibly close range that this happens, or RNG will draw it into this. I mean, if you're far away, for example, and you're shooting one of these things, it is literally the size of my mouse, well, the arrow that you see on the cheek, which, yeah, if you're close up, I mean, you've got a sizable bit to just come up here and pen it towards the base and in that triangular section, and it's the same on the other side, but it's justified by the fact that the rest of the turret is retardedly thick, which it should be, considering it's got lower gun depression and it's a Chinese/Russian playstyle. But you have a slight problem, and that if you recall back on the 140 versus the 97, I was giving the 97 a lot of praise because the command hatches were 220mm thick and very hard to pen. Now these are a bit better than the 140. It's, around 220 to 240mm thick, which, well, 280 out on the sides, because it all depends on what angle you're shooting at it, which you can ricochet off, but it's enough to where if someone's close, they can just aim at your command hatch if they're in a 10-iron, a 10 tank, and in all likelihood go through. They're still fairly small hitboxes, and better yet, they're smaller hitboxes than the 907, which I think that's fine. The armor's enough to where you'll be bouncing to raids, and they're small enough to where they're going to be hard to hit. And you don't have the same issue on the top of the turret, to where this section is 48mm thick, versus the 30mm on the 97, if you remember, which it'll be overmatched with the current mechanics in the game with a 90mm or larger. But the only portion of this thing that is 30mm thick is the very rear. Now let's go back to the visual model, because if you're looking at this thing from the front, and if you're on level or below, that isn't something you can physically hit. So as far as I'm concerned, this thing has a better turret than even the 907, which is excellent. You've got the same gun depression, but there's one other thing that I want to show you, which is why I believe this tank is better than the 121 in a lot of ways, but especially because of armor. You will recall it had 130mm thick on the upper plate. If you were using this tank's gun depression and you were aiming into that plate, guess what? More than a 60-degree angle, and on the inside it's 270mm thick. That is friggin' awesome. And you go out to the side and it's even more pronounced. And at this angle, it has rather thick tracks. And you've got enough armor on the sides to where it's either going to be absorbed or ricochet. Now they've got a slight bit on the top, but guess what? It's still rather thick, and it's only a slight amount before you get up to the turret. But if you aim anywhere on the tracks, it's going to be absorbed outright. And then the lower plate, well, you're going to be, covering your lower plate as best as you can. So the armor on this thing is exceptionally good. It's just rather unfortunate that the DPM, I'm always going to harken back to the DPM. It just needs to be ever so slightly better, and I think this thing would be an outright powerhouse of a tank, not OP, because it will be situational. You'll still have worse DPM if they would buff it to 2600 than anything you would be getting into a brawl with, except for an E50M. And the E50M is going to be just as good at side scraping as you, and have better gun depression. So what I will do is, as I typically do with my Tier 8 Premium tank reviews, as an overall picture for all of you watching, the 121B, should you get it if you have a Chinese medium crew and you want a home to put them on that is going to have a similar playstyle, if not, even despite the DPM, a better playstyle than the 121, I think you will be perfectly content with this tank. Is it going to be an excellent performer? Not as good as it should be, but it's not going to be piss poor either. Now, if you're looking for a tank out of all 5 of them that are going to be Clan Wars competitive, no, you will not get this, because it does not have the speed, and it does not have the DPM. It does not conform to the meta as much as it should. But for pub play, if you're solely looking at that, I believe you'll be happy with the 121B. But as your first tank, as a Clan Wars reward tank, I probably wouldn't advocate this for 2 reasons. One, many people don't have that good of a Chinese crew on it, and for this, you're going to want a 3-crew skill crew, one that's got BIA, snapshot, smooth ride to give it the gun handling that it needs, and whatever smattering you want to put on for the 3rd set of skills. Now, changes may occur to this thing. They did for the 95E6. I'm hoping and I believe that they will come to this tank. Now, that is pure speculation. It has not been stated, but I'm hoping it will. But if you have just an outright one to get a Chinese tank, go nuts. I mean, it's not going to be deplorable, but just, it's not the best thing out there. We'll leave it at that. If you like Chinese vehicles, get it. If you've got a good crew on it and you've already got a 907, by all means get this. You may like it more than the T95E6 or even the M60. But it's just not the end or be all medium tank by any stretch. Now that said, we're actually going to transition now, since I want to take a bit of time, since this part obviously hasn't been as long as the other Clan Wars Reward Tank videos, and I want to discuss with all of you that have been regulars on the channel what I plan on doing for the future, and in the immediate, what I will be focusing on with regards to tanks. So, to all of you that popped in just to watch, obviously, some of you probably will have just done it for that, to look at the 121B. I'm glad to have you here. I'm hoping my thoughts and opinions have put this tank in a hopefully a better light than it sounded at points that I put it in. And I hope all you guys and gals out there have fun with your reward tanks. If you earn them, it's credit to you. It's great to see people put in the time, had fun, and had a go at the Clan Wars campaign. Especially since it was right before Christmas, and a lot, including myself, were a bit hard up for time. So, have fun with your tanks. Just go nuts. And using these videos, you will now be better informed on how to combat them as well. So all of you that were here for that, do take care. And now for all of you that are still here and a bit interested in what we're going to do from this point on forward, let's go have a look back into my garage. So transitioning over to that. Right. As I want to discuss with everyone, for anyone that's been watching the channel for some time, actually, you will know that my time has been a bit hectic over the past probably 4 months now. A lot has happened, a few things, personal things that I really won't get into, but just to say that some of that is starting to mellow out, at least in the immediate. And with what time I do have, I wanted to do something that I haven't done before. We've got the new Swedish tree out, and in turn, what I wanted to do is run up one of the lines. Now, there are two things I'm going to do. Is one, I will most likely make a video which will pertain to the grind, the tier 2 up to the tier 6. I have, as you can see here, researched all the way up to the Emil. I will be purchasing it very soon, and I will be putting up a video pertaining to the Emil 1, the Emil 2, and I know I'm going to completely butcher its name, but the Kremwagen. That would be more German. That's just me making complete assumptions. We could probably just call it the Swedish tier 10 Heavy for now, and make it less confusing for everyone, and I don't have to enrage others that I undoubtedly just slaughtered the poor thing's name. But I will put out a video with those three especially. The grind up to the 6, I may make a video for each one, go in and buy them back, and run them so everyone has a sense of how they play before they get them. But the Leo I will be buying back. The Leo is a retarded little tier 7 medium that goes 60, it's incredibly quick, it's got a high alpha gun for what it is, and I think it's going to have a fun playstyle to it, which is why I will most likely, after I grind out the 8, 9 and 10, come back to this tank so you all can look at it. Now, this will take some doing. I've got 641,000 credits. Now, if any of you will recall, before the Clan Wars campaign, or even some of my older videos, I had 2, 3, 4, several mil credits. The campaign, very fitting since we're still on the tail end of one of the Clan Wars Reward Tank videos, I spent nearly 17 mil in the second part of the campaign. Now, there's a key reason for this. It's because I was that poor son of a bitch that was running the artillery, and in this case, the Conch GC, with food, premium ammo, and, yeah, on a loss, that would be 200k if you do a bunch of blind firing, if you know how to blind fire correctly, and, playing 10, 12, 15 matches a night some days. That got rather expensive. So what's going to happen, bearing in mind that I'm going to get the Emil 1.2 and the 210, in order to even purchase those and show them off to you guys, is I'm going to have to sit back, bite the bullet and grind out some credits and pubs. So bear with me on that. It may take a good few days where I can get out another video, and I may actually stream to give you an idea of, whilst running the tanks, how they perform. And looking at the GC quick on a complete tangent, is it just me or did this thing get much uglier than it was? That is one fugly vehicle. But we love it so, because it's cancerous. Even considering what it is, artillery, that is very apt to call it cancerous. Well, maybe not apt, on a serious note, that's probably not the best adjective we can give it, but all the same. Yeah, that's pretty much all I really wanted to say at the tail end of this video. Just, I'm glad to be back. I'm very pleased that due to some help on the part of Bullet and Beathead, I was even able to get people footage before the 9.17 update came out for these Clan Wars reward tanks. Otherwise I wouldn't have had time to do it, so they were very accommodated in that regard. But immediately after that, it'll be a few days, and who knows, we may be back to a weekly video, so I hope you all look forward to that. And as always, I hope you found this informative, if not entertaining. Now you all go have yourselves a very Merry Christmas, or failing that, a happy holiday. And you all do take care, have a good time with the family, sit back, relax, and take it easy. And until next time, I will catch you all later.